Hey there, I'm Pete, and welcome to another episode of The Pete DeMarco Show. My guest today is Daniel Cheong, a former software engineer turned nomadic photographer, best known for his viral sky-high photos of Dubai. You may have seen his work in publications like National Geographic, Practical Photography, and Travel Leasure, to name a few. He's also published a book and is the winner of the Best Night Photography category at the HIPA Awards. Although we cover a number of topics from rooftopping and dealing with criticism to his creative workflow and NFTs, our talk centers around his latest passion project, Cyberpunk imagery. I'm sure I'm not alone in saying that Daniel's work has been a huge inspiration, so it was both enlightening and entertaining to hear his story. I hope you enjoy our conversation as much as I did. All right, here we are with Daniel Cheong. Daniel, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining today.
Hey, thanks for inviting me, Pete.
Yeah, it's been a long time. I think the last time we met.
3 years.
3 years, right.
2019 in July in Hong Kong, yeah? Or in June, actually.
In Hong Kong, and we did that day trip to Macau. That was really cool.
Yeah, that was in June, yeah.
Yeah.
That was really good before everything went haywire, but...
And who knew? And who knew that would happen? And right after that happened, there were the protests.
We were there during they were starting the protest.
That was the last day. I think right before we left, they were just starting the first protests in Hong Kong, and we were maybe talking about
there was some demonstration in the street, but it was not the chaos like it went after with really bad. Yeah.
Right. And Julian and I went there to prepare a photo tour of Hong Kong. And then that happened, and then we said, "Hey, man, let's do it in a place where it could never get canceled. Let's set up a tour in Provence. There won't be any protests, anything." And then COVID hit right after that. After we went I went to France to set it up. But anyways, that was crazy. Yeah, I have a lot of stuff I want to ask you today. First off, just to kind of introduce yourself, you on your website you say that you're a rooftopper, and you started off kind of rooftopping. For those who don't know what type of photography that is, could you explain that a little bit, and in particular how you got started in Dubai with rooftoping?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been interested by our architectural photography, and especially from a high vantage point. And so when I moved to Dubai in 2008, of course, that was the city where you have so many skyscrapers, and I was immediately attracted to shoot from rooftops. And of course, it's not something just say, okay, I'll go on a rooftop. So at that time, it was still very good for photographers to be able to access rooftops, because that was basically nobody did that much. So I started to get to know a few people that also were like me, trying to access rooftops. So we were exchanging like tips and tricks on which tower we would be able to get, because at that time, of course, you would have to sneak into the building. I mean, Dubai, it's quite secure, meaning that all the lobbies have a security guard. But so there were two ways of approaching that. Was either to get into the building, talk to the security guard, and just try to bribe him, basically. Say, okay, I give you a few 100 dirhams, and then just close your eyes and let's go to the elevator and go to the last floor, and we'll make it to the rooftop. And otherwise, was really just trying to pass through security without, just like pretending you were a tenant of the building, and just get there, push the last button. Actually, just to make sure we were not caught, we would push like a middle level, so that if the security guard was ever watching the elevator, number, he would see that we were not going to the last floor. That would have been a bit strange. So then after that, once we go through the security issue, then arriving on the last floor was to try to get the door that would access the rooftop. And in a few buildings we were able to do that, and the security was not really not very careful about that, because basically there were no people doing it. So that was not like someone would go there and post on all social media, and then that would create some kind of they would say, oh, how did you take that from which rooftop? And so the early years were quite nice, and we were like a very small group of rooftoppers, and we were planning all kind of stuff to get to as much as rooftop as we could. And later things starting to get a bit more difficult, especially because of the let's say with Instagram and all those, not really photographers, but they just want to get to the rooftop and take a selfie in a very stupid position, hanging on the on the floor. I mean, like
holding
that,
holding on the railing. Look,
Yeah. So that really created like a big problem, and then most of the building, they would simply close, access to any rooftops, and then even with there was no way to get in. But in my case, still in the early years, I guess because my pictures made a lot of buzz on the internet, and I got the attention of the office of the Crown Prince of Dubai, who said, okay, we can have a deal. We give you access to rooftops, and you take photos and you give them to us. I mean, they are yours, but for us to be shared on social media. And that's why I got access to. I was counting last time how many roof I got access to, but it's around 70 different rooftops. So it's quite a lot, even though there must be 5 times more in Dubai now. But then that's why I have so many pictures from rooftops, and a lot of people during that time were contacting me and say, hey, can we go with you? I say, no, I got permission from the Crown Prince office of Dubai, and obviously I cannot just bring anyone I want. And then with my buddy Danny Eid, who is also a great photographer in Dubai, we were the first one to start like what we would call a rooftop workshop. So we did that for many months. We had a deal with one of the best towers in Dubai Marina, which is it's called the Cayenne Tower, which has a shape of a twisting tower. And we got permission, and then we had a very successful workshop. And again, something happened. Is like there was a Russian guy who made it, without permission to the rooftop, and he did a stunt where he was holding his girlfriend by one hand and just suspended in the void. Of course, that guy made millions of views on YouTube and Instagram, but after that, the tower management say, okay, sorry guys, but no more anyone on the rooftop, and that's it. So we were really getting a lot of success with these workshops, but we had to stop them. That was the end of it.
And when was the year that the roof-topping started for you? Do you remember about the time?
Yeah. As soon as I moved to Dubai, it was 2008.
So this, just a important thing for people who don't know, that was before, I think, drone photography really took off. I don't even know when drones came onto the scene.
Yeah, but
now it's easy to just pop
but even
drone
that in Dubai, it's very difficult to they have a lot. You need to have a lot of permission. You cannot fly a drone inside Dubai unless you have a special permission from the Department of Defense. So it's quite difficult. You can still fly a drone, but if you're caught, then you go to jail. Yeah.
And then your photos of roof-topping photos of Dubai and the fog went crazy viral. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
That I guess that's why it really put me on the map in
right,
the.
and it also had loads of photographers from around the world, myself included, fly to Dubai, dreaming of getting that Dubai in the fog shot. How
Yeah.
did that come about? Did you plan the fog before? Did you, or were you just up there and it was foggy one day, or did you say, "Hey, why don't we try and get up there during the fog?"
No, first I saw some fog shots from other photographers from rooftops, and then since I was in this small group and also at that time had the chance to access a lot of rooftops with the permission, then you learn eventually how to. You cannot predict fog, but you can see the conditions where there is a high probability when it will happen. It's a matter of percentage of humidity and temperature, and also something called the dew point. And when you have all those parameters getting together in a proper way, then there's a high level of probability that you will get fog. So at that time, you have to go to a rooftop and wait for it to happen. So you might go 5 nights in a row, at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and then and then if it happens, then you are there the whole night until 8, 9 o'clock. Sometime I mean, for me, obviously, my favorite time would be at night or during sunrise, because you never have fog during sunset. It only happen once, and that's a very rare phenomena. But these are like, and at that time I had a regular job in a company, so that was really tough, because after spending the whole night awake, and then I would go to the office in the morning around 8 or 9 o'clock, and then get back home around 5, 6, have a little sleep, and then wake up again at 11, check the weather, go out, rooftop, wait, shoot. So that, because sometimes the fog can last for like a few days, so you have to be ready for that.
Speaking of your, working in the past, so you were a software engineer for 27 years, and then you became a freelance nomadic photographer for the last, I think, about 7 years, which I really
Yeah,
relate to. I consider myself a nomad as well. How could you
yeah, it
talk a
is.
little bit
I don't
about?
have a fixed place to live, so I guess that's I
Yeah.
always going to stay with friends, or I rent an apartment. So that's the way. That's my way of life now. I mean, eventually I will settle down somewhere, but now I still have the health and to do that, to travel, feel good. So and of course you live on a budget, so you have to be careful. Yeah.
Right. And then, so you're from Mauritius, is that the right way to
Yeah,
pronounce
I
that?
was born in Mauritius. Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of, where your journey from there to Dubai, or
Oh,
how did
it's
you?
a very
Yeah.
long journey, because I left Mauritius when I was 18, then went to France to study. I studied engineering electrical and electrical and computer science engineering, and I started to work in France in '87. I immediately started to work for a mobile phone company. That at that time, it was the early days of digital mobile phone. They still, when my first project was working on an analog mobile phone, and then in my dream anyway, since I graduated as an engineer, was to move to the US, because my ultimate goal was to work in Silicon Valley. So in '95, I got an offer to go to work for a startup, but was not yet in Silicon Valley. It was in Colorado Springs, startup. And so I went there. I worked there for one year, and because at that time also, since I was now specialized in the European mobile phone system, was called GSM at that time, and the US luckily also decided to adopt this standard. So there was a lot of opportunities for software engineers to move to the US. So I got so many job offers in the US. So I worked for 1 year in Colorado Springs. Then I got a better offer to go to work in Chicago. So I was there for 2 years. And again, another better offer, so which make me move to San Jose, California, and in the heart of Silicon Valley. And I was there for again 2 years. And then at that time, the company I was working for, they were planning to move to Texas, and I really didn't feel very excited about it. So, and at that time, I got an offer to go to work to Japan for Nokia. So I went there and I worked 5 years in Japan. And since I was, Nokia was still at that time leading the way in the world of mobile phones, just before Apple, this completely was the cause of the downfall of Nokia. But so after 5 years in Japan, I had the chance to move to Singapore with Nokia. So I always want to travel. So then I moved to Singapore, where I stayed 3 years. And then at that time, also I got an offer to work for Nokia in Dubai. So that was in 2008. And Dubai was just starting to really people were talking a lot about this city that was built on sand, and at that time even they were still building the tallest tower in the world. So and then I moved to Dubai in 2008, and I was there until 2017. But I lost my job in 2015, so I took a work visa to be a freelance photographer, where I worked in Dubai for 2 years. And then I was okay. I was earning, leaving the corporate world and becoming a freelancer. Of course, there's a different world, and you don't get the same amount of money. But I was still doing okay, because I already, when I was still working at that time I was working for Microsoft, I was doing a lot of commercial work, because I got known because of my cityscape shots. So a few architectural companies, also for interior, for lighting companies, they contacted me to work for them, for also shooting real estate, interior. So, but then the cost of living in Dubai was such that it didn't make sense for me to earn money and spend all of it just to live there. So from that time I decided to become completely nomadic, and I've been roaming around in Southeast Asia, in China, still Mauritius. That's still my home country, so I still have means to stay there. Réunion Island, where my mother was born, in Réunion Island, and France also. So and occasionally doing workshops in Southeast Asia. And of course, after the COVID came, then at that time I left Europe, because before the complete lockdown of Europe, and I left to China, because this is where my girlfriend lives. And when I arrived in China, the situation was getting better. That was in March 2020, So I never experienced really any confinement, which was good for me. And then I was basically stuck in China, because there was no way for me to fly back to Mauritius or to France. So I was there for like 14 months. And after that, I had to go back to France to sort out some other things. So I went back to France, where I was almost stuck there for 5 months, because I could not go back to Mauritius or Réunion Island. And after that, I went back to Réunion, where I stayed like another 5 or 6 months. But so that was at the end of last year. But luckily, while I was in Réunion, I had to do I did 2 trips to Dubai to do some jobs for my former customers. So that was very good. Some some money. That was good money there. And now I came to Mauritius about 1 month ago. And basically now I'm kind of waiting to when I can go back to China, but I have no idea when this is going to happen. They are still very strict, and unless you are a Chinese national or you have a working visa, you cannot just go there like that. So in the meantime, I'll be here. Maybe if I got some more jobs in Dubai, Dubai is only 6 hours from Mauritius, so it's very convenient, and there are flights every day. So that's the plan for the, let's say, the half a year or more, who knows.
I like how you say Dubai is only 6 hours away. That's spoken like a true nomad, because for a lot of people, a 6 hour flight is like that's from New York to Los Angeles, and it's like a super long flight, or New York
Yeah,
to Portugal. But
it's
when
like a
you go
train
from like
on a
Malaysia
bus,
to New York, it's like 20 hours.
Yeah, that's
And then
that's very
if
long.
you add connections, it's like 24 to 30 hours.
Yeah.
It's so a 6 hour flight is like almost not
Yeah,
next door, but not
you
that
barely
far
have
away.
have time to sleep on 6 hours.
Exactly. You go up, you eat, and the next thing you know, you're landing.
Yeah, and then there's no time difference, so it's just really perfect.
That's the big one. That's the big
Yeah.
one. So let's talk a little bit about your photography, your creative process. You said that straight out of camera is a concept which I'm not familiar with. I don't pretend to show reality, but an idealized version of it. Can you explain that a little bit more, maybe how you go about doing that, or what you mean by that?
Well, if I can say it in a very short way, first, is like I don't shoot landscape. I paint them, meaning that for me when I shoot landscape, there is not a single shot that is okay for me, because there could be a shot where the foreground is really beautifully light. There's beautiful light on the foreground, but the sky is still not very good. And there would be a time where the sky really is absolutely perfect, but then the foreground for somehow lost the nice golden, I'm talking, let's say, a sunset, the golden light that you had on the foreground. So I'm taking multiple shots. When I go on a location, I might take 50 different shots of the same composition, but at different time. Also, a lot of time I'm mixing. I'm shooting normal exposures, and then I would see that there are waves or ripples in the water. So I don't like ripples in the water. So I would usually put a filter to get like a few seconds to 1, 2, 3, 4, even 4 minutes exposures. I like also the effect of the long exposure on the sky. So I'm always, most of the time, you see strikes of clouds which are completely unreal, but this is what I like. Just the normal sky for me. Sometimes it can happen, but I like the surreal element of the landscape photography that I do. And sometimes also when you have crashing waves, I choose a specific shutter speed to get that between a long exposure to a short exposure, And when I got all these different exposures, I combine them together to create an image that actually never existed in reality, because all the different elements happen at different point of time. And so that's my concept of photography, whether it's for landscape or I can also apply that for cityscapes. Cityscape is more straightforward, because when you're from a rooftop, there's not much you can do, except that for me also I have the chance to have when I'm on a rooftop to use a specific lens called a tilt shift lens, which allows you to shoot when you are very high on the rooftop, you want to shoot the cityscape, you have to tilt your lens, your wide angle lens, and you get all kind of distortion. But with the tilt shift, you can like shift down the lens in front of the sensor, and then all the straight line will remain straight. It's just shifting down, so you get more foreground than sky. And this is amazing. And I also combine that with doing panoramas, so you get gigantic, hundreds of megapixel of panos, which are, I mean, doesn't make not much sense when you post it on social media, but for a customer it does make sense, because you get then a very high definition image.
When I shot with you, I saw you using your tilt shift a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It was on your camera most of the time, and
Yes.
after
Even
I
for
saw what
landscape,
it did,
I use it.
yeah. After I saw,
Not only it's okay for landscape, it's a 19 mm, so it might have some limitation. But then I go for a panorama. But what makes also the difference with, let's say, the 14-24, which is a pretty good lens for Nikon, it's the sharpness, which is amazing. Much better than the ultra wide angle. So it says a lot, because the ultra wide angle from Nikon is already very sharp, but the 19 mm it's a prime lens, and it's amazing. Amazing.
The only problem with those tilt shift lenses is that they're freaking expensive.
Yeah, I mean, again, when I was in Dubai, I got a good cooperation with Nikon in Dubai. And I did a lot of seminars for them, presentations, talks, and in exchange I got basically my D850 and the tilt shift lens, which costs more than the D850, but for free, basically for some talks and workshops. But I don't think I would have bought one by myself, because it's too expensive. But I think even with all the jobs I did for customers with that lens, it would be
pays for
worth
itself.
it. Yeah.
And it gives you a unique option or angle to capture something that a lot of people just don't have access to. So, and you can see that in your photos
when you do interior. It's amazing for interior.
Or even your cityscapes. You have the building from bottom to top. The skyscraper all in a single shot.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Or I mean, merged into a shot. Do you ever get any criticism from the kind of, let's call them the straight out of camera crew, or people who are kind of anti-Photoshop, saying that's not a real photo, or this and that?
Very, very rarely, But basically, those who follow me like what I do,
right?
And you know how it works on social media. When you don't like something, you just don't say anything, But I do get some time, But when I do my talks from the beginning, I said I'm not a photojournalist,
Right.
I don't pretend to show reality. I have my own interpretation of it, and that's it. I understand people don't like it, and some of the criticism I got also from some people, because they have no clue how to use Photoshop. So for them, they hate people who use it. But okay, what?
How would you describe your work? Would you call them photos or images or digital art? Would you call yourself a digital artist? I know Steve.
Actually, I don't really care about etiquettes.
Mm-hmm.
I paint my photos, so you can call me a digital artist. I mean, I have no issues, let's say I would not have any problem someone calling me, what you said. I would not feel annoyed at all.
I know Steve McCurry, a few years back, he got into a lot of trouble because he was a journalist, and he got caught manipulating some of his
Yeah,
photos,
well, he
removing
blamed it
something
on his
on his
retouching team.
editor. Right. And then he said, by the way, though, I knew he set his stuff up because I could tell in some photos, like the ones from Inle Lake in Bagan, you can see that he totally lined up the fishermen, the light, the time of day. Like I could just imagine he hired some models to go out
Yeah.
there and shoot it. But anyways, he said later he changed his name from, I think, photojournalist to digital. Did he call himself a digital artist or something like that? But you are very open and honest on all
No,
of your
for
images. You
what
say
I say,
always,
when I
you say
do,
this is you say this is a composite, or these are two images.
yeah.
You tell people right off the bat, you share your settings, you share your lenses. So I think you never leave any doubt in people's minds, like, oh, that's,
Yeah,
oh, I
yeah,
got
yeah.
this in one
Sometimes
shot.
I have replaced the sky, and I mention it, because anyway, you have a kind of police on Facebook that they there's a group that they track all the people who manipulate the
Right.
photos without without telling the truth. But I always say that also, when I shoot or when I do process my images, I do it for me first. I don't do it for my followers, I do something for me and then I share it. And if they like it, then it's fine. But I'm not shooting because it's trendy to shoot that, or before it's it's the Instagram way, And even though I really dislike this platform, I honestly think it harmed a lot photography in general. That's why I'm not. But okay, it's there. But I'm not posting much on Instagram, and
I,
yeah.
I want to talk. I want to circle back to the platform and Instagram topic in a bit. But before we get there, yeah. So you're getting. I mean, there are like the kind of police, the Photoshop police or whatnot. You're very honest about it. You tell people what you do. One photographer told me, though, he said, one time I explained the photo in detail, how I captured it. And he said, a photograph is like a magic trick and you shouldn't tell people how you created the magic, because then it kind of removes the mystique or mystery around it.
Yeah,
It's not like you're lying about it, but he was kind of
yeah.
saying, oh, now that I know how it was done, once you see the magic trick, how it's done, it kind of loses that magic behind it. What would you say to that?
Yeah. But actually, but but at the same time, I feel I want to educate people also. And for instance, recently I posted a composite I just did using a foreground in an old street in the major city here. And I completely added a lot of neon lights and all kind of stuff. So I posted it like that, and then the next day I posted a before and after. At the same time, people might think, oh yeah, it's so easy to do, but they can see also the effort that I spent to to create all the atmosphere, to repaint the light all over the place. It's for me also a way to say, this is not like a 1 hour job and and it's just
Right.
like that in Photoshop.
I agree. I think it's
Hold on a second, I need to
important.
plug my computer
Okay.
because I'm running low on battery. But since I'm also doing workshops, so that's why I have this habit of also sharing technical details, because some photographers, I don't know, they have this paranoia where I won't share the EXIF. But anyway, if I share, because people ask, but EXIF doesn't mean anything,
Right.
so
I,
I never ever learn photography by looking at other photographers' EXIF. I think this is really nonsense, because especially when if it was a one exposure, fine, you know. But now the image is even, you can do a three-stop underexposed photo with today's sensors. You can recover three stops easily. So on film you don't have that luxury. So, but on digital, EXIF won't mean much today. I mean, I don't believe it will help a beginner, you know, to understand. The best way is to go out, shoot, and try. You know, it's so easy. You know, you have a digital camera, you can play with all the settings and see the result instantly. And I believe some photographers, they just, you know, look, they exit, blah blah blah, and they never go out to shoot, you know, to try by themselves. I even had some people a long time ago commenting, they were trying to guess the exif on the photo. You know? Oh yeah, oh, you must have shot at f11.
Well, there's 5 of them, so good luck.
So yeah,
I think somebody explained it well before. They said that people want to see the process behind your photos. They want to be taken on the journey. They don't just want to see the final product. They want to see like the film on the cutting room floor, the stuff that didn't make it, or you know, those things that went into how did you actually create the image. So I think sharing that kind of stuff really helps.
Let's say something that I never really, you know, it's hot here, so that's why you know, we are like 30 degrees here in the tropics. So sorry if my face is shining, but just,
no problem.
There's no AC in that room. If I was pursuing a little bit more, I don't have a YouTube channel. I have a YouTube account, but you know, I don't post anything. But I wish, you know, I jumped on the YouTube bandwagon a bit early, but now there are so many very excellent channels, so I don't really feel I can bring something new, and I also don't want to put like a very shitty video. You know, now you have so many good way of doing the tutorial. So I still do enjoy giving classes, and actually face to face. You know, I'm not really into online workshops. I really don't like. I'm okay with doing a webinar, but just talking, but doing everything where you have to teach Photoshop. For me, doing it online, I think it's, for me, I'm not a big fan of doing it. I mean, a lot of people, they do, but yeah, so that's why for now, I hope by middle of this year, I have a workshop in India in July and August. I hope this will happen, so that would be my first workshop of the year. I was supposed to have a workshop in 2 weeks in Singapore and Kuala Lumpur. Of course, with the COVID, it has been cancelled. It was already cancelled last year, so this will be postponed for next year, hopefully. And slowly, I hope to get back into like photo tours, and this is what I like to do.
We all do. Speaking of your photo tours and photos in general, you shoot quite a few different genres, you just posted a photo earlier from Pointe-au-Piment, Mauritius, and you said, leaving the cyberpunk realm of my last few posts back to conventional landscapes. And that was something I wanted to ask you, is that these days a lot of photographers, or at least you hear on Instagram, for example, like they want you to keep, to kind of stay on brand, for instance, to have a particular look, and so that all the photos look similar, and that the content is a similar thing.
What's the goal behind it, to get more followers?
I guess, yeah. I mean, to get more popular, to
I
get more followers, to sell more
I don't
stuff, to
give a shit
whatever.
about follow. I don't care. That's why
Mhm.
I'm so sorry. Um, something. Yeah. So that's why I'm really not posting a lot on Instagram because I'm not trying to engage a lot. I do. I left my Facebook page for a while because I was trying to go more on Instagram and all that. But I find myself, even if everybody says, "Oh, Facebook is dead," but at least the people who follow me on Facebook really like photography, and many of them are photographers. And I engage a lot more. Actually, on Instagram, I don't reply to. I'm sorry for my Instagram followers, but I never comment or I never reply to comments. I prefer to focus on the Facebook, and you know, at the end of the day, what do you want to do with social media? Some of them they do it because they want to get more jobs or collaborations, whatever. I guess for me, since I've been doing social media, I never really got job through social media. It's plain, very simple as that. So I don't feel social media for me brings revenue to me. I do use it to promote my workshops. Then I use the Facebook you pay to get more. Even though this thing, I did a few promotions, and you get a lot of views and whatever and likes, but you wonder where these likes are really relevant to what you were targeting. Are they just some bots that Facebook, just do it to make you feel that you paid and you get your money's worth. So so that's why I'm not so much worried about engagement on social media. I mean, for me at least.
And you never felt any need to be known or really just focus on one particular niche?
No, I mean, I was on until I started this Cyberpunk photo composites. I was mostly doing landscape and cityscapes. I think those are, let's say it's under the same umbrella, whether you shoot like a beach or a city, it's still a landscape image.
Right.
But during the COVID, since I was not traveling, I had a lot of time on my hands, so I started to get more into spending more time in Photoshop. And I've been in so many places in Southeast Asia where actually the cyberpunk genre is really very closely related to Asia. I mean, it all started with Blade Runner, which the movie of 1982. But at that time, it was kind of groundbreaking in terms of the atmosphere that the director Ridley Scott created, and what you could see there is Los Angeles in 2019, but completely Asianized, I would say. All the streets are now full of Chinese signs, and I mean already LA, some part of LA might be a bit like that, but it's like there's a lot of Asian influence, especially Southeast, China, Japan, and then you have this contrast between those old streets with the neon lights and very old, and contrasting with the very skyscrapers, completely futuristic building. And I've always been fascinated by that. Actually, that's why maybe I really like to shoot cityscapes. But then when I started to, I've been doing Photoshop for quite a long time, so I even though I think I'm still using only 15% of this tool. But I start to understand how to do photo compositing, and for me that was a kind of a very good opportunity to create images that have been, which inspired me, images of movies, you know, whether it's Blade Runner or Total Recall or, you know, Ghost in the Shell, all these futuristic movies. So for me, I still have a lot of fun creating those images where you see a kind of a dystopian society with very poor kind of streets, and at the same time very modern and big buildings.
So I've lived in Asia for, I think, a total of like 15 years or something like that. I've been to all those big cities, and you know what you're saying reminds me of that quote. I can't remember who said it, but it's like, don't shoot what it looks like, shoot what it feels like. And you know, that's, you know, your composites are awesome. That's what it feels like when you're there. And I don't know,
and
I think
really I really want to go back to Southeast Asia and to get more material to create more of this thing. Sometimes, you know, especially in Tokyo, you don't even have to do any composite, you know, it's just there.
Right.
The neon lights are there. You just have to play with the color grading to make it more like, you know, it's more like and blue and magenta, or you know, and these are the colors, because I think this is related to the neon lights. So it has either like a blue or pink or magenta color.
We had a field day when we were in Hong Kong and Macau, just going out, walking around, neon lights. I remember in Macau, that building, the Grand Lisboa Hotel, it looks like a robot.
In Macau. Yeah.
I think amazing. Yeah, you don't need to do any composite there. You just, you know, play around with editing.
I really regret at that time, because I went a couple of nights in Mongkok in Hong Kong, and I did a few shots, but at that time I didn't have that, you know, idea of doing composites for that. You know, at that time it was not even in my mind. So I feel I missed a lot of things in Mongkok. There are so many streets, small streets, where I could have taken you know, just a few handheld shots, and then having that to be part of creating my my composite. So that's and Hong Kong now you cannot even go. So I don't know when we'll be able to go again.
You said you didn't even have the composites in your mind. When did the shift happen for you that all of a sudden you have this kind of, you know, cyberpunk composite mentality, inspiration?
I think it's because, you know, during when I was in China and I could not really, not much to shoot. So I say, okay, what I'm going to post now, I post everything that I had. So what if I start creating some, you know, new world? And this is where it started. And maybe before I was too much, I think, oh, it's too complicated. I would never be able to do. But something happened also in the meantime. Is 1 year before the COVID, I went to a training in Paris from a friend who is specialized in black and white architecture. And this is where I learned all the techniques to basically cut out all the buildings, apply lights, you know, play with the light. So, you know, the main thing when you do composite is cutting out the subject or the buildings, remove the sky, change the sky, add some light here, some light there. So I learned the technique from this friend, and this gave me the confidence that, okay, I can apply it now to create composites for not black and white architecture, but you know, anything, those cyberpunk composites.
Let's dive in a little deeper into your workflow with one of your photos here. You shot the Chinatown in Port Louis. And then you mix that with the background cityscape of Chongqing, which, by the
Yeah.
way, I'm dying to go to Chongqing.
Yeah.
Looks like the most incredible place.
It's
But yeah.
for me, it's equivalent of Hong Kong because it's Chongqing is built on hills also. So you
Right.
have hills with skyscrapers, just like Hong Kong. And
And,
yeah,
and there's the two rivers, and there's that peninsula, which at a quick glance almost looks like Manhattan or something like that.
yeah.
So, how did you
No,
put this
this
shot together?
one,
Can you
yeah,
take us a little bit through like your creative process? Because I mean, these are now I'm showing the before and after.
yeah,
And I mean, you did a lot of work here. I mean, you even, one thing I was looking at was you put the shop,
yeah, yeah. I
you
put because this it was a
like,
completely abandoned building that
right.
was very
I
dull.
thought that would at least be there, but that even that shop wasn't there.
There's no
So,
shop, nothing.
so how do
No,
you start? What's
no,
you have a blank canvas?
very that like any composite, that was actually was quite an easy one in terms of just combining the two shots. I just had to cut out the buildings and not forgetting the electric wire because for me it's very important. It really adds like a, in those old cities where nothing is underground yet, you have all those electric cables hanging around. So I had to cut all of it around it, so to isolate the sky. And then I just pasted once I removed the sky, so I just pasted the Chongqing photo on the background. That was the step one. And actually I made working on the time lapse to show from the beginning to the end. So everything that will be added like a time lapse. But for now, then the main thing is to give life to this building and the surrounding. So I went to I had a lot of Mongkok shot that I did back in 2003, I think, with my, it was my Nikon Coolpix something, 8700. But they were good enough for the neon, so I cut out about, I don't know, 16 different neon lights. And of course, some of them you had to adjust the perspective, to make it match with. So you have in Photoshop what they call the transform tool that allows you to modify any perspective. And once I add a neon light, I have to add the light behind the neon light on the wall. So I have to paint the colors all around the surrounding. So I will do that for all the neon lights that I added. And then, as I said, this building was completely abandoned, so there was no light from the inside. So I added a few windows with light. I added a small restaurant, like a convenience store shop. I did like 4 different shops in the building. And then I wanted to have you can call it a human element. So I added this woman silhouette on the right side. And once this was, all the elements were added, I use it's a very popular software now or plugin called Luminar AI. So they have a very nice filter that really brings out all the details, in one click. So I use
Like
that
a sharpening filter?
It's a kind of a local contrast sharpening, but really without creating, all the halos or whatever, like a bad HDR. And then the second pass, I wanted to add a bit more fog on the cityscape. And for that, I'm using another plugin called Boris FX Optics.
BORIS?
BORIS FX Optics. It's amazing. It has. I think it's a software originally that is used in Hollywood for special effects for movies. But they made a version for photography, which is called optics, which has, I don't know how many, 200 presets or filters. They have all kind of color grading that you do with one clip, but I don't use that. But what is very powerful, they have all these atmosphere, you know, filters like fog. You can add flare, lens flare. On some of my other composite, you can see like on some towers, I had like a cinematic flare or lightning. So this is a very, for composite, it's it's a must for me to add those special effects. I mean, it bears its name, you know, Boris FX, really, it's about special effects.
Speaking of cutting stuff out, you have one shot, it's you standing on a helipad looking out over Hong Kong.
Yeah.
It might have been, was that maybe your first?
Yeah, that was my first, let's say, composite / cyberpunk that I ever did.
So my question is, how do you cut out the little railings? Select, you have the edge of the helipad, there's these railings, and I kind of looked, you know, did some pixel peeping.
Yeah.
It's all right there. That would have been, if you do it manually, that's a ton of work. How did you do that?
No, I do it manually, and many people using Photoshop will use, the best tool would be to use the so-called pen tool, which allows you to draw curves, you know, or straight lines, and that will really match any shape. But for me, I've been trying to use it for many years. I just cannot. I cannot do it. So I'm using something called Polygano Lasso tool. So meaning instead of doing a curve, I have to do little by little creating the curve. Yeah, I spent hours just to do the cutout of that helipad. Yeah.
Are you using a tablet? What do you use to? How do you edit?
Good old mouse. I have a tablet, but I never use. I try to use it, but it doesn't work for me. You know, so sometimes all habits die hard. You know, so I'm very happy with my mouse.
Right. So you just joined, or you recently joined Prism NFT. You put up 9 NFTs. Mm-hmm. Can you tell? I noticed on your on Facebook on your page, people are asking, you know, how much did it cost? I heard usually you have to pay $200-300 or something to even upload your work. You said you had a special relationship with them, or they approached you. It was too complicated. You know, you were interested in NFTs, but didn't.
No, I was interested. I started to hear about it about a year and a half ago, but I had no idea how to tackle this. And suddenly, 6 months ago, I was contacted by this company, Prism NFT. And we had a few Zoom calls. You know, they were pretty transparent. You know, what they were doing, the organization of the management team, kind of their pedigree. You know, to show they were serious. And then they say, okay, you know, we like your cyberpunk NFTs, because also for me, the kind of issue that I had with NFTs was, from what I saw on social medias and all the hype, NFT was still for me more about digital art, you know, rather than pure, landscape photos or cityscape photos. I still have some doubt about if I can really sell landscape, you know, just pure landscape as an NFT or a pure cityscape. So that's why when they approached me and they were interested in my cyberpunk, for me it made sense, because they are some kind of, without being pretentious, the digital art in a way, because they are composite and they are not really reality. So I was thinking, okay, you know, there's a chance some people might be interested. And when I was posting my early Cyberpunk shots, I always had a comment say, hey, why you don't do them as NFT? So that's why I send them the 9 shots. They said, okay, we will mint them for you. You don't have to pay anything. And then we take 10% of the sales. And luckily, when they were doing a closed beta test last month, and I was able to sell one of them, and they just now do an open beta about a week ago, and for me again, nothing to lose.
So I was gonna say, I was gonna ask you, did you sell anything? And it was also kind of curious how much you earned, and didn't really want to ask it. I thought it might be too private, but I went to your
I
went to
put
your
it
Prism.
on.
Yeah, it's public. If you go to your page, the Prism
Yeah, so it was
page.
0.3 Ethereum, ETH, which equivalent to $1,000. Yeah.
That's
The,
awesome, and congratulations with that.
if I'm sell through a stock image, they will sell it $100, and I will get maybe less than 20%. So
Right. And,
I don't want to hear about stock image anymore. This is really bad.
right. And so I noticed now the next one, it goes up to 20,000. So like, I guess there's a limited number. So
No,
like
it means the buyer now can resell it.
oh, and the buyer is saying, I'm going to sell this for 20 grand.
Yeah, but on the 20,000, if he sells it, would be good for him. I would get 10%.
Okay.
So I would still get $2,000 out of the $20,000.
So this sold within, you were only up like a week or something, right?
Yeah.
Man, I hope Jesus Flores, you can see the name of
Yeah.
the person who bought it. It's all very transparent. The funny thing, I know this place. This is in Kuala Lumpur.
It's
Bukit
Kuala Lumpur.
Bintang.
It's Bukit Bintang. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it very well. There's
It's a very famous photo spot.
yeah.
It's on the how do you call that, the train? Yeah.
The train, yeah, the monorail that they have running
The
there. And you can
monorail,
see it
yeah,
was in
yeah.
2017 because it's painted on the ground.
Yeah.
And then you have, I see a lot of Hong Kong buildings, but you also have the Pearl Tower from Shanghai. You have Dubai, the Burj Khalifa.
Yeah.
You have the other building to the WFC in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And then there's the
Yeah.
Shanghai Tower.
Yeah.
The one far left is also Hong Kong.
Yeah, there is the
That's
Lipo Tower
HSBC
from Hong
building. You
Kong.
put in like, this is like the Mount Rushmore of Asian skyscrapers.
But I wanted to change the 2017, because I always reference my shot now to Blade Runner 2049. So I wanted to change it to Kuala Lumpur 2049. I could have done it, but I was too lazy to change the writing on the street. I should have done that. It would have been more funny. You see Kuala Lumpur 2049.
I think you bring up a really good point about NFTs and digital art. And I notice some of the people who are doing more NFTs, even traditional landscape photographers, they're creating something that is like more on the digital art side, even if they're more of like a traditional landscape photographer or cityscape or whatever. Do you think that has to do with NFTs? You mentioned, people are looking as a collector's item. Like when I look at this, it's something that, you recognize right away, like, oh, this is you. And somebody else can't just walk up to the same vantage point, go to the same rooftop and take the same or similar photo. This is something that, you've done on your own and it's digital art. So do you think that NFTs are going to change the way or kind of push the photography genre more to a digital art side rather than a straight out of camera side?
Yeah, that's what I've been doing already without even before NFT. Is all my landscape have have this surreal touch, those long exposures, those long strike of clouds. So I think this type of photos have more chance. I don't know if on the pictures I sent to you there is one which looks like a waterfall. It's a square format.
Okay.
But already when I showed that to Prism NFT, they say, oh, okay, this one we have to sell it as an NFT. So
Next question. Oh, you mentioned platforms. Where are you sharing your work these days? If I remember correctly, you're on Flickr, or are you still using Flickr? You said you don't really like Instagram that much. What are you focusing on? I heard Twitter.
Flickr,
a lot
this
of
is where it all started, because without Flickr, I wouldn't be talking to you today like that.
By the way, I went over to Flickr like a day or two ago, and as soon as I landed on the page, your shot was the cover, the Flickr. It like cycles through a few photos. Yours was the first one. I can't remember if it was I think it was a Milky Way with a boat or something.
Actually, this is a composite,
Oh, okay.
The Milky Way was shot in Bromo, and also you can see the volcano, and the foreground, that wreck, was shot in Mauritius. And when Flickr approached me, because they say, okay, we want to put this photo on our blog, I say, okay, that's fine, but I tell you, this is a composite, it's not a real photo. They say, no problem. And this photo, because it's on their blog, has reached, just the photo itself, like 18 million views already,
Wow.
Yeah. It's, and sometime I saw it too, and so this would typically something that I would propose also as an NFT. Something, that completely that might not exist in real, so it has this kind of a digital art tag to it.
The thing is, though, is that photo, when you look at it, could be real. Whereas when I see your cyberpunk stuff, I know right away that it's digital. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, absolutely.
But people don't know that when they see it, and I think that's part of the reason why it's important maybe to share your process with people so they know what you're doing. Otherwise, they just think, Yeah. How about Twitter? A lot of photographers are, saying, I'm not going to be on Instagram anymore. I'm bailing for Twitter.
No, I've been on Twitter for a long time, but I never really, I'm more like a reader of Twitter rather than posting or retweeting. It looks like this is the main platform to promote NFT nowadays, so I might have to get back on this media if I really go full speed on NFT.
So your main platforms are Flickr and Facebook?
And Facebook and 500px. And also recently I've been posting a bit more because I like the quality of the photos there, the 1x.
1x. I've never heard of 1x.
It's a curated platform, so you have to submit the photos and they will be curated, and then if they like it, they will publish it, or they will not, then they don't publish it. Yeah.
You mentioned that, it's taken you a lot of time to create these composites. I think on one post you said it took about 8 hours, actually, that one of the Chongqing.
But it's 8 hours on a span of 3 days, I'm not focusing on 8 hours.
So I remember when we were in Hong Kong, the kind of inside joke, Julian and I would get back, to the apartment, and we'd be saying like, hey, Daniel's probably already edited and posted his photo by now. Like we'd go out shoot, and then you would always be just right away posting. And so
that's
what's your thought behind that? Because I know some photographers they say, shoot the photo, go home, let it sit, kind of simmer in your mind, whatever, on your hard drive, then go back, edit, and then when you're done with your edit, don't post it right away. Wait like a day or two or whatever,
No, for
because
me, it's
maybe your
something,
edit was too
no,
aggressive and you need to wait a little bit
yeah.
of time to kind of come back to,
No,
what's
for
right.
me, it's something, you know, because when I shoot already, I have visualized the final product in my mind. So the first thing I want to do is go back to the hotel or go back home and edit it, because it's part of the excitement still for me,
Right.
of the rush you have. For me, taking a photo is it's like a rush. You know, you you got something really cool because I mean, not because of what you see on the camera, but what you've seen all the different shots you took. You see the sky was amazing, the light was gorgeous, and I'm very excited to go back home and process it, and also it shows that I don't spend too much. I mean, for normal landscape or cityscape, I don't have to spend a lot of time. My workflow, I mean, is pretty much the same for the last, let's say, 15 years, and maybe also that's why some people say I have a consistent look on my cityscape, on my landscape. Of course, you have new tools, new plugins, but the feeling of, it's still, my artistic approach is still the same. Okay, now I have more liberty, sometimes you shoot a nice landscape, but okay, there's missing human element. I wouldn't be scared of adding, a human element that I took from another shot or from a stock image, just to add that. I would have no issues with that, and I might even say that okay, this person was added.
Well, that's what you did in the Chongqing shot there. So
Yeah.
you said you added someone in there.
And you can see on the original shot, the silhouette is not there. But then you have to add the shadows. You have to be a bit careful when you add stuff.
Right. So let's see. You mentioned that in the future you are going to be doing some a workshop, I think you said in India in the summer. Is that right? June,
Yeah.
July? Can people still join or?
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because of all this travel restriction, I guess we didn't go full speed in marketing it, but there's already a website. So this would be like a landscape in two different places. This is organized by a group of photographers that I already did a workshop for them in India a few years ago. So I know them, and they take care of. I just go there as a guide, and they would have scouted all the places. There will be some waterfalls, some very nice landscape, and I don't recall the name, but yeah, I will send you the link.
Okay, I'll put a link in the show notes. I'm also going to link to your website. I know on your website you have a workshops option
Yeah,
there.
they
So
might not really not up to date anymore.
right.
So just put my website and not put the workshop links because they are obsolete now. I have to edit them.
And then if some of your fans want to purchase your NFTs, how do they go about doing that?
They go to the Prism NFT. I've also joined, because I was invited to join the foundation, which is the big NFT platform. But for now, I'm just starting, and I prefer to see how it goes with Prism, and then OpenSea or Foundation, you have to pay for minting the NFT, then with no guarantee of selling it, you know. Yeah. So I'm still kind of looking what is the good thing is you can go and look what is popular, and then that gives you an idea of what kind of shots you want to post.
Would you say that that's kind of your future direction, is to focus more on NFTs?
No, actually, something I forgot to mention is that you still need to make a living. Without during the COVID, I was not traveling, but which is one major source of revenue for me now is through a company that track my photos that are used illegally on the web. And so they have a very good image search engine. They can find, even if it's a banner that using only a quarter of my photos, they will find it. And they have lawyers that contact the companies that have used my photo without my permissions, and of course for commercial use. I mean, some guy for his own blog, personal blog, used my photos without my permission, and no big deal. Even it would just be right to ask for permission and credit me on the picture, and this is quite a significant monthly revenue now, to be honest with you.
It's so sad, but also a sign of our times that as creators or artists, photographers, people are earning more money by people who are using their images illegally than actually selling the images themselves. I'm not saying that's your case, but I know of other people who've been doing that as well, finding people who are using their images illegally on the web.
When you say people, would be mostly companies, and they have
Right.
have money. And
right. They do.
Why they would sell a product or sell a service using your photos and get away with that?
And also I think because of your catalog of images, a huge amount of them are from Dubai, and they're showing like these, fantastic cityscapes that people are using real estate agencies and politicians. And I mean, so for you, that's like, those are, you have a higher chance, I think, of finding
but
people.
Actually, one of my most stolen image, it's a horrible night HDR that I did back in 2009. No, when I was in Singapore, so it was 2006, and it's a panorama of Kuala Lumpur, and at that time I was using a very popular HDR software called Photomatics. And of course, I'm not proud anymore of that shot, but I was checking last time on how many websites it was detected. It's about 9,000 websites.
What?
Yeah. So if only, a small percentage are, paying for that. And they did this, and of course my Dubai shots most of my Dubai shots are used illegally. Some of my Singapore, I mean, mostly cityscapes. I never ever had a company stealing my landscape, Yeah. And I do still have images on stock images like Getty and Shutterstock. But, if I make $25 a month.
What about selling prints, maybe through like an agency or something like that? Not necessarily selling prints on, SmugMug or your own prints.
Yeah, I'm actually. I sold a few prints on SmugMug, but not anymore. And actually, I've disabled mostly all the printing now, or sales, because. That's another issue that if you are selling NFTs, you cannot have another channel selling the image. I mean, you know, someone will pay, a few $1,000s to buy an NFT, and if he sees that I'm selling a print of that image, it's something that is that's wrong. So, since I was not selling prints anymore for many months, many years, on my SmugMug website now, that you cannot buy any prints from me, basically. Then I've tried to sell prints in Dubai, and it's a kind of I'm selling prints, but the revenue is not that much. Since in Dubai you get less than 20% of the sale. So, and then I seen some photographers in the US. They seems to be doing very well selling prints. So maybe the market in the US is maybe people are more okay to buy prints.
Mm-hmm. All right. The last question: do you have any tips for any photographers who are aspiring to get more into digital art, composite photography? Is there any advice you'd give them?
No, I mean, for me, I learned a lot about compositing, even how to color grade the cyberpunk pictures through YouTube. There's unlimited resources, and I watch YouTube videos every day. And since you start watching those specific videos, they will come directly to your feed, and you always get something new. And then I think photography, for anything, it's about passion. Just be passionate, and it must not be like I mean, of course, if you do it full time, you have to earn from it also. So luckily now for me, because of this business of people stealing my photos, I don't have to worry now. But this will not last forever neither. So, but I'm sure once the traveling becomes easy, I'm back on the field and trying to do photo tours and taking people and sharing my passion with them.
Awesome. It's amazing to see just how your journey has changed from, working as the engineer, and then doing the full-time photography and shooting, in Dubai, and then earning money from NFTs, and then you're, making money from people stealing your images. It's just like it's not like you get a job and you get a salary and you do the same thing for 20 years. It's like,
but I remember
the way that you survive keeps changing with the times, and even our art changes as well along the way.
But you know Albert Dross.
Yep.
So
he's the one who told me about Chongqing.
Yeah, but also five years ago we had a workshop in Amsterdam together. And then he said, Albert was there, we were in the restaurant. He said, I want to introduce you this guy. He has this company called Photoclaim. And, he will track your photos. You don't have anything to do, and you will make money. I said to Albert, I don't really believe. So it took me a year to finally accept to contact this guy and said, okay, I'm in. So very easy, because they use your Flickr page to track all the photos, which is the best for me, because that's my oldest platform. So I told you I've posted shots since 2006 there. And little by little, I start getting money every month, and it exponentially grew up. But again, we never go after, there's this guy with his blog, we target the big, the companies or the travel companies, that promote Dubai with my photos. They are getting hit. And some are getting hit big times, yeah.
And they have the money, so.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just want to thank you for taking the time to
It was my pleasure.
share your expertise and your passion. You've really inspired me and motivated me to get out there and shoot cityscapes. I've learned a lot from you. So thank you so much for taking this time.
Thank you, Pete.
And sharing with the community as well. And I hope to see you somewhere in the
person,
world.
Yeah. In Southeast Asia, for sure. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure.
All right. Okay, my friend.
Okay, Pete.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.